Okay, so I started this book called Scientific Truths in the Quran, and I was reading it last night, and my eyes, I was just like... So I want to read to you something that I read in here that's blowing my mind. So, for 1400 years, since the revelation of the Quran, skeptics had trouble understanding the verse, "The heavens and the earth were a joint entity, and we, capital W, separated them." However, with the assistance of scientific advancements, we can now understand these verses in a new light, which help us piece together the cosmological puzzle. The miraculous nature of the Quran lies in the knowledge it contains. Its verification of scientific facts shows that its message is as applicable to the scientist in his laboratory today as it was to the Bedouin in the desert. And then it quotes Quran 21:30, "Have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joint entity, and we separated them? Then will they not believe?" In the original language in the Quran, the word rat, which I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. It's RATQ. And it says that this word is translated as sewn to, which also means mixed in each or blended in Arabic. It is used to refer to two different substances that make up a whole. And then after we, capital W, is the word fataka. The phrase fataka is unstitched and implies that something comes into being by tearing apart or destroying the structure of the things that are sewn to one another. In this verse, heaven and earth are at first subject to the status of ratk. They are separated, fataka, with one coming out of the other. Intriguingly, when we think about the first moments of the Big Bang, we see that the entire matter of the universe collected at one single point. In other words, everything including the heavens and the earth, which were not created yet, were in an interwoven and inseparable condition. And then Quran 51:47, "And the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed we are its expander." It was only after the development of the radio telescope in 1937, less than 100 years ago, that the expansion of the universe was observed and established. This discovery is regarded as one of the greatest in the history of astronomy. I'm skipping over some stuff, but then it says, Hubble discovered a striking law. The speed of galaxies that receded was directly proportional to the distance between galaxies. The farther away a galaxy stood, the more its speed of recession accelerated. A universe where everything constantly moves away from everything else implies a constantly expanding universe. The debate now is not whether the universe is expanding, but rather at what rate. And there's so much more in here. I'm so excited to read this. Yesterday I read an excerpt out of Scientific Truths in the Quran. I'm going to read another one because, y'all, I'm only 17 pages in, and there's already so much to share. There will be more. But I'm going to read this next one. It also has to do with like the formation of the universe. So the other video, we kind of talked about like the Big Bang. This says, "The science of modern cosmology, observational and theoretical, clearly indicates that at one point in time, the whole universe was nothing but a cloud of smoke. This is one of the undisputed principles of standard modern cosmology. Scientists now can observe new stars forming out of the remnants of that smoke." Quran 41:11 says, "Then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke." As the earth and heavens above have been formed from the same smoke, we conclude that the earth and the heavens were one connected entity. And then written in Science magazine, which is one of the world's top academic journals, says, "By the time the universe was 1 billion years old, the smoke, actually a gas of light-trapping hydrogen, had almost cleared entirely, allowing stars and galaxies to become visible." We know that our world, the sun, and stars did not come about immediately after the primeval explosion. Rather, the universe was in a gaseous state before the formation of stars. This gaseous state was initially made of hydrogen and helium. Condensation and compression shaped the planets, the earth, the sun, the stars, that eventually became the products of the gaseous state. The discovery of these processes was made possible thanks to successive findings, observations, and theoretical developments. The knowledge of all contemporary communities at the time of the Prophet did not suggest that the universe had once been in a gaseous state. The prophet himself did not claim to be the author of the statements in the Quran, as is often mentioned, declaring that he is simply a messenger of God. And then it includes Quran 11:49. That is from the news of the unseen, which we reveal to you, O Muhammad. You knew it not, neither you nor your people before this. So be patient. Indeed, the best outcome is for the righteous. After 3 minutes of watching this video, your life is not going to be the same. My brain is different, very different, and I can't unknow this. If you are spiritual, if you are a New Ager, if you're a witch, if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, everyone, watch this. Firstly, the word Muslim means one who submits to God. So let's keep that in mind. That's why people say Jesus was a Muslim. As someone who has very much participated with New Age, with magic, with Wicca, I've dabbled with Hermeticism and all the things, right? Like I have been seeking for a long time. Now there is a lot of legitimacy in these paths, but the thing is, it obviously requires action, it requires effort, it requires energy, because you are bending reality to your will. It is the will of your human, your psyche, your body, your conscious and subconscious desires. So you are shaping and manipulating reality to your liking, right? That's what it's all about. But there is a greater will, God's will, and the will of your highest self. So you have like the lower self, the animal, impulsive, instinctual self, and then the highest self that I would say is the part of you that is directly connected to God. And it's also not sustainable. That's why you have to continue doing it. And you are always going to have this hunger, this unsatiable starvation, because it is rooted in this realm where everything is constantly devouring and recycling. And that is why it's considered demonic. It is literally tied and imprisoned in this realm. So then this will is in juxtaposition to this will, because on this hand you are not making the changes internally, you're making them externally. This, you have to bend yourself to the will. You don't bend reality to your will, you bend yourself to the greater will. And you do this through virtue, through love, compassion, connection, honesty, loyalty, self-purification. I forgot to include that this includes abstinence to overindulgence and heightened sensory experiences, like constantly seeking sensation. This is the process of ascension. This is the process that Jesus was showing everyone. This is the process that Muslims go through. They don't participate in pop culture. They don't listen to secular music. They don't watch gory, over-sexualized content. They don't follow trends. They don't date. They don't drink alcohol. They don't do the hookup culture. Like, you get what I'm saying? So I have realized it is antithetical to use this path, which is obviously lower vibration. It's a lower vibration. It is hedonism, to try to use that path to ascend, because it doesn't make any sense. It's not possible. You are literally using your animal, human desires and instincts and impulses to ascend out of them. You can't do that. And like, hello, this is so appropriate. It is literally the month of Ramadan. You fast these things that create addictions. Fasting, self-discipline, taking your cross up daily, right? That is an actual ego death. We always consider ego death in like this realm, like this path. This is where the ego deaths happen. No, they're not. No, they're not. Or you would have to leave that behind, because you would actually see it for what it is. The ego death happens when you say, this will of mine, my body, my psyche, is keeping me in this realm, which is the 3D realm, where it's demonic. Dude, I'm crashing out. This just like completely shifted my spiritual paradigm in such a way, I still do believe that Islam is what Christianity was supposed to be. This is the message that Jesus was telling people, like, hey, you don't have to be doing these unsustainable ceremonies and rituals constantly to try to like appease the gods, right? Like, you can actually just connect with source consciousness. You have the ability and the access to do that. It's through virtue. It is through virtue. And Jesus was the most virtuous person on the planet.
So this is what I have been thinking about for 3 days, constantly aware of it. The awareness of this has not left my brain. And it's crazy because now the way that I'm seeing content, specifically content I would normally relate to, I see it through a different lens. And I'm like, that's pagan, low magic, low vibrational stuff. I've never felt that way about those paths ever. Something happened to my brain, and I don't think it can be undone.